the tool to help prevent something like this, seeing birds before they get too close.
And the still ahead on Action 3 News live at 6. Birds and airplanes. We've seen what happens when they collide.
After the break, we'll show you what Offutt Air Force Base is doing to keep the birds at bay.
It's hard to forget this image. A plane lands in the Hudson River. Everybody on board lives. Investigators believe a flock of birds knocked out both engines to the jetliner just after takeoff. Today, Offutt Air Force Base practiced the same scenario with some new technology, making it safer for both birds and planes to share the skies. Action 3's Erica Summers is live with more. Erica?
Birdstrike Avoidance radar, it's a device that detects where birds are flying so aircrafts don't run into them. Offutt is one of 4 bases allowed to use the machines.
It's the scene that amazed America. Birds bring down a commercial airplane. The pilot lands safely in the Hudson River. Offutt Air Force Base is trying to keep that from happening here by using new cutting-edge radar.
We've always known that there's birds out there. Now it's just giving us a more keen awareness of what's going on.
The system detects how high up the birds are flying, in what direction, and the size of the bird. If the aircraft is flying into a flock of birds, the pilot's landing plans are adjusted to avoid a collision.
And if the risk gets too big, we stop flying.
But there are some limitations.
The radar doesn't work in 2 separate types of situations. 1 when it rains, and 2 when the birds are stationary and not moving.
In the past 5 years, Offutt Air Force Base stacked up more than $10 million in bird strike costs alone.
We just had over 600,000 birds within 100 miles of here. That number's down to about 100,000, and it'll drop down to about 40 or 50,000 when the summer hits.
Offutt is sure the system will ultimately save them millions in damages.
Offutt tells us the radar system is only being used for Air Force and Navy bases. The FAA is currently testing similar devices to help commercial pilots avoid run-ins with birds. Reporting live, Erica Summers, Action 3 News.
Tomorrow,
You're watching KETV Channel 7 Omaha. More complete coverage. This is the most watched local news at 5. KETV News Watch 7.
A bird strike, as you'll recall, forced a pilot to land this plane in the Hudson River. In that case, everyone survived, but dodging birds can be a daily occurrence in the aviation business. That's the reason for this cutting-edge technology at Offutt Air Force Base. It's giving pilots an extra set of eyes. Good evening to you. I'm Todd Andrews.
And I'm Christy Anderson. The new radar at Offutt provides 3-dimensional safety, showing pilots exactly where birds are and what the risk is.
KETV News Watch 7's Melissa Fry gives us a closer look.
The MERLIN radar stands watch along the runway, silently scanning the skies.
You get an overlay and you get discrete tracks that you can identify as birds.
Birds on base. At peak migration, there's 600,000 flying within a 100-mile radius of Offutt.
So the engines are the most dangerous or susceptible part, and then you obviously have the windscreens, but they are designed to take bird strikes too. And then these are bird plots here.
Now with this radar, crews can tell when it's too dangerous to take flight. This computer assesses the risk by the number of birds, where they are in relation to the aircraft, and how big they are. The MERLIN radar can detect birds 3 miles into the sky and 4 miles downrange. The data is collected and reported around the clock.
As soon as we lose our sight, night, restricted visibility, this is an objective measure. This thing sees birds all the time.
And while the radar scans, crew on base use air cannons, pyrotechnics, and other methods to keep the birds away.
Let's make Offutt as unfriendly as possible for birds. Let's cut the grass long, so birds don't like to land and feed where they can't see the predators coming.
Measures to protect the crew, the craft, and the budget. In the last 5 years, Offutt has spent $10 million repairing damage from bird strikes.
And if the risk gets too big, we stop flying.
With more complete coverage, Melissa Fry, KETV News Watch 7.
Base officials say rain provides the only problem for that new radar, as precipitation can be mistaken for birds.
Commitment to Thanks
More
so much
local
for
at
joining us
9.
tonight.
You're watching the Fox 42 News at 9.
I'm Amanda Muller. Thanks for joining us tonight. Offutt Air Force Base watching the skies a little bit closer these days to prevent another near tragedy.
Well, this year's plane crash into the Hudson River in New York sparked international attention about the danger birds can pose to airplanes. It's a threat pilots at Offutt Air Force Base take very seriously. And as Fox 42's Megan Euchre shows us, now there is a new tool helping them monitor the skies.
New technology helping to solve a very real problem. During the spring and fall, as many as 600,000 birds fly within 100 miles of Offutt Air Force Base.
During fog or low visibility conditions, we might be able to hear the birds, but we can't see them. We don't know what altitude or where exactly they're at.
Over the last 5 years, bird strikes have cost the base $10 million.
Some of it's going to be cost of doing business, but if we could capture some of that, we could focus that money somewhere else.
Now the MERLIN Birdstrike Avoidance system is helping pilots do just that.
The radar is objective. It can see everything. It can see things that the human eye can't.
The radar system is capable of spotting birds 4 miles away and up to 3 miles into the air. It's especially beneficial at night, mapping a bird's size and path in real time, then calculating the risk to passing planes.
The computer assigns a much higher risk to a turkey vulture than it would to a starling, which weighs 1 ounce.
The $300,000 radar system is just one of numerous tactics safety officials use to reduce the threat from birds. Loud noises, explosions, and habitat changes also work to keep birds away, but leaders say this radar is an increasingly important piece of the puzzle.
It won't replace anything we're doing now. It's just another added benefit to us.
With more local at 9, Megan Euchre and photographer Taylor Stein, KBTM, Fox 42 News.
Now that system does have a few drawbacks. It doesn't work when it's raining or when birds aren't moving. The radar has been up and running for the last month. Leaders say it's too early to tell, though, what kind of an impact it will have on the amount of damage done to airplanes.
Well, several